Hey, hi people. I think live started. Yes, it is. Hi Bharti. So guys, I'm going live with Shelly, and Shelly is a travel blogger from. We are going to talk about how's travel in Mexico, and if any of you are planning your travel to Mexico, then I'm sure it'll be fun for you. Hi Shelly, how are you?
Hi! Oh, you look so pretty.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you asked me to join. I'm excited to talk to you guys about Mexico.
Yeah, it's been so long we're talking, and finally we could get it done. And
I,
I hope everything is good with you.
yeah, we just had a hurricane, but everything is fine. But we
Oh,
live
when
in
was it?
like 2 days ago. But,
Oh,
you know, we live in the tropics, so we have hurricanes sometimes. So I know you guys have monsoons in some parts of the country, so it just everywhere has something.
yeah, that's true. So I hope you're doing well, and because we are running out of time and we already got late and you're gonna rush, so we'll quickly get into it. So
Yeah.
I'm introducing you for who doesn't know you, and I think less people have joined and more people will join very soon. And yeah, so thank you, Curvy Smart Beauty. And so, guys, I have Shally here, and Shelly is a travel blogger from Mexico, and she's going to share some of the travel tips from Mexico. And so, any of you are planning your trip to Mexico, it will really gonna help you, I'm sure. So, yes, Shelly, what would you like to tell about Mexico?
Well, what can I say? Like India, it's a very big country. So you know, you guys probably know that every region is definitely different. You know, different customs, definitely different food, different beaches, mountains, all that kind of stuff. So my real first advice is determine where you want to go, like what kind of trip do you want to have, because obviously Mexico is very famous for the big resorts and Cancun and stuff like that, and that's fine. It's a certain kind of trip. If you want to just lay back and have some drinks and do nothing, then that's of
Right.
course
So, what do
Mexico.
you love most about Mexico?
I love so many things. It's a much more laid back life than the U.S.
Mhm.
Of course.
Mhm.
It's a pretty stressful place to live. It's pretty expensive to live in the U.S. Um, I love the culture. Mexicans are super, super friendly. I love
Mhm.
eating here. Again, like
Mhm.
you guys know the importance of food cultures. Yeah,
Yes.
Mexico's like very big on food. Yeah. I mean, I'm in a
Oh, there are a
relationship.
lot of vegan options available too.
I wouldn't say that. In Mexico City, in the big cities, there's like vegan cultures starting up. I lived in Mexico City for about a year, and
Mm-hmm.
more over that year, even from like 2018 to 2019, I saw just a lot of vegan restaurants popping up. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a newer part of the culture. They eat a lot of pork here in southern Mexico where I live, and then in the north they eat a lot of cow, like the states bordering like Texas and stuff like that, where they raise cattle up there. So I wouldn't say it's a totally vegan friendly country, but the bigger cities, yeah, I would definitely recommend Mexico City if their vegan scene is up and coming. There's tons of blogs, people are writing about it more and more, and tons of restaurants popping up all the time.
Right. So one can easily find vegan options too. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you can, even where I live, there's vegan options. It's just not, I know it's so much more like ingrained in like Indian culture, for example, or like Southeast Asian. Like you can find way more vegan here. You can find vegan. It's just you have to look a little harder.
Mm-hmm. I get it. So what kind of places would you recommend to somebody who's visiting Mexico, say for a week? What all places would you recommend that they should definitely keep in a bucket list, and what kind of adventure activities or any activities you would want to suggest?
Let's see. So again, like it depends what kind of trip you want to have. Right now, I live in the Yucatan Peninsula. I live about I don't know how far, like 4 hours or so from Cancun. Tulum is another really up and coming destination. A lot of people are adding Tulum to their bucket list, for example. It's very beautiful. They like it's on the beach. They have a lot of very big like art installations. Like it's super Instagrammable. There's all kinds of swings
Mhm.
on the beach.
Wow.
A lot of people love Tulum. But the whole area of the Yucatan Peninsula where I live, like there's a lot of Mayan ruins. People come here and do road trips. It's a popular place for road trips. And then of course Mexico City is just amazing. It's they call it the tropical New York City. So, there's millions of things to do, high energy. Um, and then let's see, Oaxaca is another state that is really up and coming. It's where they have the biggest Day of the Dead festival, or Dia de
Mm-hmm.
Muertos. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing. A lot of people have that on their bucket list. And that state also has some of the most beautiful beaches in Mexico, as well as some of the most famous surfing beaches. So there's
Wow.
a huge wave there that's actually called the Mexican Pipeline, and they have surfing competitions there. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another big one. And let's see
So
what
for
else.
beach lovers, it's a paradise, I'm
Yeah, and
sure.
then there's the west coast of Mexico, Baja California, which is very famous for its beaches. It's kind of like a beach desert climate,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people do camping there as well. Like you can do beach camping because it gets nice enough at night, like cool
Mm-hmm.
enough at night that you can do that. So there's a lot of like eco resorts on the beach and something called glamping. I don't know if you've ever heard of glamping. It's
I
like
haven't.
it's like glamorous camping. So
Okay.
it's like fancy tents with air conditions
Okay.
somehow. So they call it glamping. And there's a lot of glamping in Baja California. It's there's a marine sanctuary or a UNESCO site. I'm not sure exactly how it's called, but like it's one of the biggest areas in the world where whale migrations happen. So there's a lot of
Okay.
like tourists to see the whales out there, as well as Mexico's biggest wine region is over there.
Mm-hmm.
The Valle de Guadalupe, the Guadalupe Valley. So yeah, like when you have a big country, there's almost every kind of option. Oh, and then in the north, there's a really cool thing. We have the second biggest canyon after the Grand Canyon. It's called the Copper Canyon, and there's like a really cool train trip. I think it's like a 3-day train trip that goes through the Copper Canyon. And it's very beautiful
Mm-hmm.
too. But yeah, I mean, the list just really like goes on and on. It depends what you want to do. There's great scuba diving and that kind of stuff here. Where I live, we have the second biggest reef system outside of the Great Barrier Reef.
Mm-hmm.
So big for diving, snorkeling. Yeah, I think
So
it's
a
just
lot
a
of
really
water
big,
activities to be done, yeah.
a lot of water. Mexico has like, oh, I don't even know, like 6,000 km of coastline, like something big. There's a lot of coast, a lot of water stuff. I would say
Mm-hmm.
for like adventure activities, maybe water activities would be the most. But then there's a lot of forest here too. So I know a lot of people do like ATVing through the forest,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. I don't think we have like hang gliding or anything really along that line. I don't think that's super popular here. So I would say for adventure, maybe, like you want to go to like a foresty place and do sort of some like jungle trekking or
Mm-hmm.
definitely water adventures.
Right. So for beach lovers, it's definitely a paradise, and there are a lot of activities related to water that one can definitely do. And apart from that, one can explore forest and trekking, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose. So what would you advise somebody to get from Mexico as a souvenir, as in something which they can remember or something they can give to their friends or family?
Yeah, so that's like there's a lot of indigenous art. That's a big thing here, but again, it like varies from region to region. So the indigenous peoples of Mexico, to like lump them together, it's kind of like Aztec descendants and Mayan descendants. So where I live, it's very
Mhm.
Mayan. And a lot of people will buy, they call them huipiles. They're like the traditional Mayan garment. So that's something that you might want to get. And then again, different parts of Mexico have like different indigenous arts. So anywhere
Okay.
you went, you'd be able to find, whatever's local to that area. Of course, Mexico's famous,
Okay.
at least in the U.S., for tequila, but in Mexico they drink more mezcal than tequila. So maybe you'd want to bring mezcal with you if you don't drink. It's a little less common outside of Mexico, but here it's like the number one drink. What
What
else?
exactly is it? Is it a kind of tequila?
So it's made from the same plant, which is an agave plant. It's a kind of a
Mm-hmm.
cactus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a city in Mexico called Tequila. So they make
Okay.
a specific kind of mezcal and they call it
Wow.
tequila. It's kind of like champagne. You know how it's sparkling wine made in Champagne, France?
Mm-hmm.
So tequila is mezcal made in Tequila, Mexico, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. So I'm sure if people, whoever would visit Mexico, will know now what they have to take away from there for their friends and family.
Yeah.
So, and what would you suggest people, like how many number of days they should plan if they are planning to visit like Mexico for the busy cities and like not so busy cities and countryside and all of that?
I mean, especially coming from somewhere far, like from India, for example. I mean, honestly, like to even get all the way over here, I would say like 5 days would be a
Mm-hmm.
very minimum. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually just wrote a blog that's like a 5 day itinerary to Mexico City. And, I did live there for a while. So I know just the crazy amount of things to do. But I wrote that and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, you really could, like 5 days, you really could, like, cover a lot of
Wow.
ground
I'm sure that will be helpful for the
if you stick
itinerary.
to one place, you can. I mean, some people come and then they're like, I'm going to go to 3 cities in 5 days, and it's like, all right, well, you're not going to really see anything. So I think if
Mm-hmm.
you have something like 5 days and you just stayed in one city, maybe did 1 day trip out of the city,
Mm-hmm.
it would be enough time. You could definitely make that work.
Okay. So, when did you travel last, and what is the situation in Mexico right now in amidst the coronavirus? And is it like getting normal? Like in India, lots of the places have been opened up, but with safety, of course, with all sanitization and social distancing, people have started traveling. So, is it same there, or it's gonna take a little more time, or people are more strict there? What is the current scenario?
There's the state next door to me is where like Cancun is and a lot of the big beach destinations. So that state is reopened, I think, almost all the way, which, you know, some people say they just did it because they had to, because they have like a whole tourism economy.
Okay.
So but you still have to be there with masks. I think anywhere in the country you still have to be with a mask outside. That's why I'm on my balcony here, because like I can't go into the street without a mask, so I couldn't really talk to you.
Okay.
But honestly, I really have kind of advised anyone not to come for the rest of this year, because for me, I mean, this could just be personal, but like I don't consider it a vacation if I have to wear the mask. Like I'm just gonna,
Mhm.
and
Right. Agree.
where I live it's
Yes.
hot, so it's like I try to even go outside as few times as possible. Like I even order my groceries delivered, things like that. So for me,
Mhm.
I would say honestly, you might not want to consider it for the rest of the year. But again, someone might not really care about the mask, so that could just be me. But I think
Mhm.
if you want to be safe, I mean, I don't think our numbers are super super high, but the government has to take risks. I mean, there's a lot of really poor parts of the country that can't risk like an outbreak or something like that because they're not going to be able to contain it. Like they just don't have the infrastructure in like the pueblos, the small towns.
Mhm.
So, things are opening, but yeah, like exactly like what you said, like contained and regulated, and restaurants are only allowed to be half full and that kind of stuff. But you'll see a lot more and more. Like I've looked at some Airbnbs, trying to help people plan trips, and I see them all now like posting their certificate of completion for extra sanitation measures and stuff
Mhm.
like that they have to take. So yeah, it's still slow. I think it's still slow, and
I think it's still going to take some more time, and until next year,
Yeah.
possibly whoever has Mexico in their bucket list, like me, can plan their travel. And so, what is the best season you would advise? Is it like what are the best months to travel?
So, a lot of Mexico has what they call the eternal spring. So it's like
Mhm.
spring climate, pretty much year
Okay.
round in a good amount. So anytime, pretty much any time during the year is actually
Mhm.
kind of okay. But I think for the beaches can get pretty hot and rainy. So I would avoid the beaches in the summer. But other than that, you can honestly come to Mexico almost year round and be totally fine. But yeah, the rainy season on the beach is pretty crazy. Like I said, we just had a hurricane, so it's not
Mm.
just like a cute little rain. It's like ruin your vacation kind of
Yeah,
rain.
I know. Everything is like really messy out there in rains.
Yeah, and a lot of these like the smaller towns, if you're venturing out of the resorts, they're going to be like not dirt roads but like beach sand roads. So the
Mhm.
like beach sand doesn't really drain the water. It kind of like holds the water.
Mhm.
So those some towns can get kind of floody. But yeah, that's the only thing. Like the beaches are super nice in the winter anyway. Like there's not really bugs and humidity. So if you want to have like the best time possible, I would say if you're doing a beach trip, wait till October through March would be perfect for the beaches. But the rest of the
Mhm.
country, honestly, you could kind of come year round.
Okay. Great. So yeah, I mean, where did you travel last? I'm sure it might have been long time since we are in the lockdown.
So my boyfriend's birthday's in December, and we ended up taking a trip.
Mhm.
It was like the end of December, beginning of January. So that was the last trip. It was to a pretty popular island here that is more and more up and coming on like uh, international radar, but it's like all Mexicans go to this island at some point in time. So it was it was in January, sadly. But
Mhm.
our there's we have a state right next door to us that I think on the 15th, so just in a couple days, are like fully reopening. And there's a couple things. We've been to that state once, and there's a couple things over there we haven't done. So we were thinking like we might go over there maybe next month just for
Mhm.
like 3 days or something like that. There's actually a huge Mayan pyramid over there, which is like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then there's some like springs, some like natural springs. So yeah, that's on the agenda. But
Wow.
yeah, it's
And
been
that
like,
will be good time, I'm sure. But I'm not sure if you have to still wear the mask, which you don't like while traveling.
I know.
That will be one of the things. But yes, I mean, you'll get to travel after so long, and that's quite a nice thing. So, any
Yeah.
cuisine you would like to refer to people who are visiting? Anything that is popular or anything that you would suggest should be a must try for whoever is visiting to
So
Mexico or any of the places?
yeah, again, like it's gonna be like region to region and state to state and all that kind of stuff. But this
Mhm.
cuisine is just like thousands of years old and stuff. So it's like it's a very deeply rooted part of the culture. But obviously, everyone knows tacos, of course. But
Yeah.
like even tacos, like my part of the country, like I mentioned, it's where a lot of the Mayan descendants are from. And like we don't really even eat tacos over here. We eat a thing called cochinita, which is like a baby pig that they cook underground for like a week. It's just like it's
For a week.
delicious. Yeah. They
Wow.
bury it underground for a week. It's kind of crazy. It's a very like old indigenous cooking technique. There's actually all kinds of efforts to like preserve, the like a lot of really famous Mexican chefs will actually move out to this area for like a month or so and learn the cooking techniques from the people who still do it the traditional way.
Wow.
Um, yeah. Oh, it's delicious.
And how does it taste?
It's really good. It's just like really like juicy pig meat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's grossing anyone out or not, but yeah, I'm clearly not vegan or anything like that. But yeah, what else? Let's see. But yeah, if you go to Mexico City, they're very famous for the tacos. The tacos al pastor is also pork meat
Mm-hmm.
too. It's probably the most famous taco of Mexico. And then there's another state called Hidalgo that's very famous for something called barbacoa, which means barbecue. And they,
Mm-hmm.
again, this is like another thing that they cook it all week, so they only serve it on the weekends. And
Wow.
it's, yeah, it depends where you are in the country, but usually it's like sheep meat. That's really delicious too. And the state of Oaxaca that I mentioned earlier, they're famous for what they call mole, which is a marinade and a sauce. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
really saucy kind of dish. In on the west coast by like Baja California and a lot of the southern or all the states that kind of border water, they're like very seafood heavy. For example, like fish tacos and shrimp tacos are a big thing. But yeah, it just like it depends where you're going. But Mexico's such a food place, and they have like there's a huge street food culture here. So anything you wanted to try, you know, you can try it on the street for cheap and see if you like it. But whatever's local to wherever you are, you know, you can just kind of go from there. But of course, I don't think you can come to Mexico and not eat tacos. That would be just weird.
Sure, tacos is a thing.
Yeah.
And it's more of seafood, yeah, you can easily find everywhere.
Honestly, like there's a lot of seafood eaten here. I have also spent a lot of time on the beaches. I'm from Miami, so I can't ever really be
Mhm.
too far from a beach in my life. But yeah, seafood is a big thing here. They eat a lot of ceviches actually, and ceviche is more
Mhm.
associated with the country Peru. But I don't know if you got ceviche is something popular or familiar in India, but it basically like they just kind of put lime juice on top of raw fish, and it like this the juices kind of cook the fish, if that makes sense. But it's still like served cold with like some chips, and it's like the perfect thing to eat on the beach. So yeah, you can.
Kind
There's
of
a lot of seafood.
Mexican fish and chips.
It's kind of Mexican uncooked fish and chips. Yeah, but
I get it. Yeah, you have told a lot of options for people who eat meat, but like with this, I could see like because I'm a vegan myself, and I don't know if, what would be the options for me to try on, maybe veg tacos or something like that.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I just think it's easier in some places than other places, but I think it's
Mhm.
possible anywhere. You know, you just, I was a vegetarian for almost 5 years, but a long time ago. And it was like the same thing, you know, there weren't necessarily like vegetarian options, but you make it kind of a thing. But yeah, for like Mexican traditional specific dishes, it, it's not a big vegan culture. I'll be honest
Mhm.
with you. But I
Mhm.
know plenty of vegans. Like the city I live in now, there's a lot of like expats that are relocated here, and like I know like 4 vegans here, and they are always like excited to eat and excited, you know, for the vegan places. So they're out there, um, you know, and it's all new. Like everything's new in Mexican cuisine with veganism. So I think people are just like making up their own rules and like breaking other
Adapting the
rules.
vegan culture and new
Yeah.
dishes coming up.
So it's like exciting and it's new and it's very fun, you know, especially in Mexico City. Like for a vegan, I really think you'd love Mexico City.
Hmm. And how's the culture? How do you think is the culture different from US, or
Um,
is it more or less the same?
it's hard to say. Like, so I'm definitely an American, but I'm from Miami, and Miami is like a very heavily Latin influenced place. Like, we actually have 2 official languages in the city of Miami, and it's English and Spanish because our population is like 65% Latin. So
Hmm.
I feel like I'm kind of from a Latin country. So like I don't think I pick up on the cultural differences as much as like another American from, you know, some other part of the country might pick up on, but to me it's just kind of like it's very Latin. It's like very laid back. Um I would say like it's a little more like traditional kind of male and female gender roles, which is still something I have to like I try to get used to a lot. Like I think like females kind of breaking the mold is still a little new and up and coming kind of thought processes here. But yeah, it's just like fun. Like Latins like having fun. They like loud music. They like dancing. They like partying. I feel like they don't really like in the US, like people live to work, you know? No, they like work to live, you know? Here it's like
Hmm.
it's different. It's like you know, you work and then you party. You know, you work and then you party. It's like there's a good balance, I think. Um yeah, it's just like, you know, it's very chill. It's very calm, but it's very lively at the same time. So
It's pretty chilled out, yeah, compared to US. Is
I
it
mean,
very
yeah,
busy or is it like a mix of the cities? You have less busy cities and then the capital, or
I really think there's only like three big cities in Mexico. Mexico City, obviously, which is the biggest city in the whole continent
Mhm.
by far. Guadalajara is the
Mhm.
second biggest city, and then Tijuana is kind of a big city. Like it's really those two, and then there's like two more like medium, and then it's a lot of like smaller medium sized cities. Yeah, where I live, it's kind of like I feel like it's like a city suburb, sort of. It's
Mhm.
not at all. It's very like beautiful and colonial, and it's definitely a city, but it's a smaller city. Like there's not, besides Mexico City, there's not like the huge cities here.
Mhm.
But I think
So,
also like, yeah, there's
yeah.
not, the population is a lot smaller too. So
Mhm. Right. So, enough about Mexico. I think you have given enough information about Mexico, and you also have a blog which people can check out,
yeah.
and they get 5 days itinerary full in there, and less research needs to be done. So, which is a good thing, of course. One more thing I want to ask, and then I think we can just wrap up our live session. So,
Cool.
you are a traveler, you have traveled full time, and you've been traveling for so many years. And I have traveled myself as well for so many years, and I have personally felt that travel has changed my life. Travel has changed the perspective I look at things, and it has completely changed me as a person. And like when I was a kid and I was in the college and I was not traveling as often as I do now, and especially solo traveling has changed my perspective towards life completely, the way I look at it and my future goals and my career and everything. So what do you think travel has brought, like has travel contributed towards your life? Did it help you bring any change, or what is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, I totally agree with everything you said. But I grew up traveling. My father was from Israel, so his whole family was there. So we used to go in the summers to the Middle East.
Mhm.
So, like, for me, I just kind of always thought of it as a natural sort of part of life. But I guess I'm
Mhm.
lucky in that way that I had a non American parent. But I think solo traveling has been really the big game changer in the last couple years that I've done it. You know, it's like the biggest thing I think is like you learn to trust your intuition. I think like,
Right.
you know, society and at least like Western culture, you know, that it values very much like facts over feelings, but it's like our
Mhm.
feeling is like really our guide, you know. And I always say, you know, I live in Mexico and it doesn't have the safest quote unquote reputation, so I get asked a lot about travel safety in Mexico, which is fine. I don't mind talking about that, but you know, I always tell people like, if fear is like a feeling, it's not a fact, you know. It's like if you feel scared, you know, it's the truth. You don't have to wait until something bad happens to be like, oh
Yes.
yeah, I was right. It's like you were right because you felt it. So I'm very big on like promoting, you know, 100% listening to your intuition. And I learned that by, you know, being solo traveling and having no one to sort of like bounce my ideas off of and be like, hey, I don't feel like that safe right now. What do you think? You know, like, and then a friend being like, no, it's totally fine. Or being like, yeah, I feel weird too. It's like, you are that person. Like, you have to be that person for yourself, you know? So it's a little
I
more
agree
like,
100%.
yeah,
Yes.
I've learned, I
So
guess,
it's all
a little
about
more.
believing your instincts, trusting
Yeah.
your intuitions, and nobody's there to tell you. Of course, when you're solo, you are your own,
Hmm.
everything. And especially, I think one biggest thing that I have faced apart from traveling solo as a female, apart from safety, I have faced is I've learned more about being careful towards my things because whenever I used to travel with my friends or whoever is along with me, so I always keep on losing my things. I'm a careful person that way. And then when I was traveling solo, I was very, very considerate about my passport, about everything that I have, and make sure that, I don't lose upon things. And I'm more uh, of a person whom I can trust. Like I
Yeah,
can trust myself now more.
it's
Uh,
true.
yeah,
You have to like challenge yourself to be able to believe in yourself. That's what I think.
yeah,
You have to kind of prove to yourself that you do believe in yourself. And the only way to do that is to a little bit like put yourself in maybe a scarier situation or a situation you don't think you can handle and then proving that you can. So
yeah.
it, you know, I recommend solo travel to every person at least once, at least see if you hate it before assuming that you're going to hate it. And it's not a big deal. Start small, do an overnight road trip from where you live. Don't necessarily fly 22 hours to the other side of the world for your first solo trip. It's not a smart idea.
That would be
Uh,
too scary. I mean, to
you
begin
know,
with.
but if you want to, you should do that. But it's like,
Yeah.
you can also do baby steps, and you never know until you try, I guess. But yeah, it's like you said, it's been life changing. So
Yeah, so trust your guts, and that gut feeling is going to tell you, and your intuitions is what is going to keep you safe through your
absolutely.
journey. And so, did you face any of the bad experiences, or like when I have traveled, I have figured out that world is not that bad. As I was thinking in my head, people are good, and there are good, nice people I have met, and I have made good friends also during my solo travels, and I still have friends. I mean, I still talk to them, and so I it changed my perspective about the world that not everybody is bad. There are good people too, and there are more good people rather, I would say, and there are angels I have met, and
Hmm.
they have helped me when I was stuck in few of the situations, and yeah, so that was a life changing journey for me.
Yeah, I love that you call them angels. That's so cute. But yeah, I think people are mostly good versus mostly bad, and I think that's like another thing, like maybe that has come with traveling solo. Like people will like help you; they'll go out of their way to help you more than you
Yeah.
ever think that they would. But again, like if you're constantly in your comfort zone, you're not going to ever need really that level of help. So I understand how people that maybe are more risk averse or take less risks or do less quote unquote crazy things as solo travel, which I don't think it's crazy because I've done it, but for people that haven't done it, it seems pretty like extreme. But it's like unless you're put in a situation where like you're just completely needing the help of someone and then they show up and help you, you wouldn't know that people are mostly good unless you actually experience something like that.
Yeah. And those are the peoples God have sent us as an angels for us.
Yeah,
I mean, I've really
I love
felt
that.
that. So I was stuck in Dubai, and I got localites helped me out to get out from the situation. I was feeling very unsafe and uncomfortable, and I was like, God, what am I gonna do? And yeah, so those were the angels for me. And this is one of the these are the memories that are there to cherish and keeps me going for
Yeah.
another solo trips. Yeah. So have you been to India?
No, I never been to India. Sadly,
Uh,
I've never been to India, but I would really love. I would love to go to India.
I'm sure you'll love it. It's a mix of culture and so many things to visit. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure I'm sure you're
I
gonna
mean
love it.
um, it looks beautiful in photos. I feel like I've never seen a bad photo of India, so
Mhm.
I definitely would love to go to India.
Lovely.
And you should
So
come to
yeah,
Mexico.
yeah, it's in my bucket list, and probably next year I'm planning a trip nearby Mexico and to two, three places. So I'm definitely gonna visit it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
You're gonna love
Israel is
it.
also in my list if you would like to suggest me something about Israel.
Let's see. I haven't been in a long time. After my parents were divorced, we kind of like stopped going. But I grew up, like I said, I grew up there. My family lived in Haifa, which is like, I believe it's the second biggest city after Tel Aviv. It's a little more like, again, like a medium-sized city. Like Tel Aviv is a huge city. So if you want to like do big city things, you know, Tel Aviv is your place. But then Israel also has a lot of like mixes. I mean, that whole area of the world, you know, they say civilization kind of came from there. So there's like rainforests in that country, which like nobody's ever expecting. Ein Gedi is like a pretty famous like rainforesty area. It's kind of like a desert
Oh,
oasis rainforest that's gorgeous.
oh, I've
And
never
then of
heard of
course
rainforest in Israel, although I was making up my itinerary and it's so beautiful.
it
I love the
is.
culture of Israel and it looks very beautiful in pictures. At
It's
least.
very old. You know, dress modestly if you're going to any of the holy sites. They take that stuff very seriously there. But yeah, I mean, Tel Aviv is very progressive, like I mentioned. Haifa is another big city, um, a big medium city. But yeah, if you're looking for like city, I would definitely say Tel Aviv. The Dead Sea is super cool. You know, you can like there's all kinds of pictures if you Google the Dead Sea, like people like reading the newspaper, like floating because like the salt content is so high that you literally like float on the actual top of the waters. There's all these funny pictures of people like reading books and the newspaper like while floating.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah. So yeah, I
It's
mean, for a
crazy.
small country, there's a lot to do. Again, you could probably be in Tel Aviv like a month and not run enough stuff to do. But then there's also, you know, some surprising nature, and then of course the history.
All right, quite a lot of information we have got today. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in,
Thank
Shelly.
you.
And I'm sure I'm gonna save this video, and for whoever wants to visit Mexico, they would get enough of information from whatever
Yeah.
you have told us. And thank you for being here. Thank you for
I,
sharing everything.
yeah, I hope it was valuable. And if anyone wants to find me on Insta, my Insta is Travel Mexico Solo, and my website travelmexicosolo.com. So
Yeah, where one can find the blog as well. Yeah,
yeah, let's
about
continue
that.
the Mexico conversation. But thank you for having me. It's been super fun. I guess they're starting construction. I live next to a bar, and I
How's the
think they're
weather there? Can you
preparing.
show us?
They're preparing to
How's the
reopen.
weather? Wow.
It's like tropical. It's very tropical behind me. It's
Mm-hmm.
hot. It's still hot. It's kind of hot year round where I live. It goes from like hot to less hot. It's very hot to less hot. So we're entering less hot, but it's still pretty. It's still pretty hot. We only have like 3 months of cool temperatures, and then but I live in the tropics, and I'd rather sweat than freeze. So
All right. So it's day for you and it's night for us in India.
yeah.
So I
All
wish you a good day. Have a
right.
good day,
Thank you.
Shelly.
Have a good
Hope
night.
to see
Thanks
you
for
soon.
inviting me. I had fun.
Yeah, I too have a lot of fun and a lot of information I've got from
Good.
you, which will be really useful. Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
so
Thank you for
glad.
joining in. Have a good
All right.
day.
Bye, everyone. Take
Bye-bye.
care.